of helps with like not be so angry at them, but it doesn't excuse them from their shitty actions. So
yeah, well, it's like so the story that pops in my mind that's kind of semi-relevant, just along the lines of so coming back to we're all the same, and I kind of share that belief that, like, say the consciousness that is the consciousness of that animal and you and me, it's like this same fundamental kind of flow of, I feel like I hate calling it energy, because so much of the conversation is cliched, but that's
what people can almost visualize and maybe connect to more.
Yeah,
so sometimes I use it for that. Yeah,
gotcha. So when you see it from the position of someone else who says, well, the realization that's been hitting me over and over the last good chunk of the summer is just, and throughout life, of course, but it's just that no one has an easy ride.
Yeah.
Even if it seems like someone has it better from the outside, we can connect on a certain level, but there's no way that anyone can 100% understand a person. I can't even do that for myself.
Yeah.
It's so deep and profound, and
and we think we understand because we live in a world where social media is this highlight reel of so and so's life, so that we're like, oh my gosh, everything is hunky-dory and great for you. Because that's what people want to portray as like the best moments, rather than like the mediocre, the worst, or oh, I had a good poop today,
Yeah.
But
that's worth appreciating.
Sure. I know. Oh my gosh, I appreciate that. I love probiotics.
Yeah.
But like, in doing that though, almost takes away the humanity of a person, that they may just have a really shitty day, and they post every second day because they have a good day, and then a bad day they're not sharing it. I just like taking even that into account, and it is never an easy. No one ever gets a really easy ride.
No one has an easy life.
Yeah.
And even if it's been easy so far, it's just a matter of time before. I mean, if it goes the best case scenario, you still have to watch your parents die.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You don't want them to see you die.
Yeah, exactly.
And so and then, if you start getting older in years, like your friends weren't so healthy, you start just dropping off, and then you're just alone, and
but that's also.
But that's part of the process.
That's also part of the process.
That's part of what evolves your consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're involved. I guess the one message that feels good for me is always like, we're so deeply involved in a process that's in it to kill us, and it will. Yeah. And we're making it harder on each other in so many ways. I mean, I'm sure an amount of it is unavoidable, because I've never found anyone that there wasn't at some point, if we spent enough time together, that we didn't piss each other off in some way. Yeah, it's absolutely guaranteed. And you can dig into any person and find eventually something horrible. And I think that might feed everyone's has contempt for themselves, and everyone has a hard time loving themselves, or even understanding what that idea means. Not being so hard on oneself, and it's because no one knows more than you why you should hate yourself. Yeah. And but that doesn't mean it's the best course of action, or the best thing to feed. But it's incredibly difficult for people to just, everyone's a hero. Everyone's getting up every day and going and doing what they need to do. It's crazy.
And we put people on pedestals so easily. I remember there was a person who I put up on a pedestal who was a highly kind of respected yoga teacher, and I remember oh my god, you can do no wrong. And then I met people who knew them behind the scenes and was like, oh, that picture of them drinking wine on the beach and saying I love my life, just having a glass of wine on the beach, great, was them downing the entire bottle and crying themselves to sleep because they were so sad. And so we do these to folks to make them, whether it's something that we're asking for ourselves, or people are pushing them onto them and pushing them up on a pedestal, when really we all have a lot of those similar struggles, but that pedestal pushing stuff for a lot of people doesn't help them whatsoever either, because now they're feeling this weird social obligation to be more of a somebody
Yeah.
Now, oh, well, I gotta be somebody. I'm a somebody now, okay. Hashtag I'm a somebody,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's gonna feed into one's ego.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even take a lot.
No.
I remember Ram Dass in some of his later lectures would talk about, that whole thing. He would show up and he'd be Ram Dass.
Yeah, Ram Dass on your white robe.
Yes.
Ram Dass. Oh, I can't eat that dessert. Ram Dass. Yeah.
And that's why I think he's got such longevity and he's really capitalized on yoga as a career, and talking about it and doing it all. And I think it's because even when he's critical of himself, getting sucked into that side of the mind, and he's still in the midst of all that was humble and shared stories of that he shared stories of him being a human.
That's what I really enjoy about his later talks, and particularly like in the 90s and onwards, is because he was at an age where he, I think he's 87 now, so he'd have been like in his late 50s, where you could make fun of himself for like, oh, when I sat there and I didn't want to touch the biscuit because I am too holy for that. Yeah. But then they had pushed it towards and I grabbed it and I had it and thought about the entire time and I'm so holy. And then you get back and his guru would say like, how was the sweet? His guru knew that he was eating it, right? And it just brought him right back down into himself, like that. Yeah. That I've got to act this way or be this person. But unless you have maybe some sort of like Big Bang experience, I don't think a lot of those realizations happen, unless with age, experience, and wisdom. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the stuff that maybe he teaches about now is all hindsight, and now I can look back and see that I was this way, and it's great and amazing. And I know during that time I probably I did create this amazing group of people and followers who are into meditation, etc., etc. But now I can look back and say like, was it coming from a place of ego? Mm-hmm. And maybe I was, and you can make those shifts, but. That's the thing is, like I said to someone, I was like, I'll never see a life coach who's 21. Why would I see a life coach? You know
that doesn't make any sense. That'd be like, that's why there's a reason all the politicians are old and all the professors are old and the gurus should be old. It's like, there's, because what I'm noticing, and I'm only 24, so I'm noticing whatever a 24-year-old me is able to, but that it's a constant transformation. Every year, the more I pay attention to it, and the more I'm writing and reflecting and meditating, the more I see how even a year ago I was different. Yeah. And then, so who am I going to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Thinking those thoughts give me a sense of meaning and a deeper kind of... it's like that dichotomy of like, so you're not meditating to get good at it or to get anywhere with it, but it is the case that it's going to have an effect on your consciousness over time.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So
there's scientific benefits.
Yeah. So kind of having my mind on the big picture in a way, which is in the future, kind of in a backwards way, keeps me present because I know that it's going by now, and 50 years is going to just be now one day. And so it can sound like there's no time, but then you can also go back, and even for 30 or 40-year-old, it's like, say you live to be 80 and you keep your mind intact and everything goes well. If you're 40, you went from 0 to 40, and everything that happened between then and now is what happened, and you have all that time again. I know. And you can do it consciously. Yeah, you could be a whole different person. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So that helps me stay patient and just stay with the practice and keep on trucking.
I mean, we live in a world that worships like intelligence as opposed to wisdom. Yeah. And that just even goes to show in how we treat our elders. Oh, I know. We are going a long tangent there, but it's true because there's like. I don't have grandparents, but they might not be able to turn on the computer, but I could learn a lot of life skills, learn from hardships, learn from X, Y, and Z from them because of the wisdom they've obtained from something. But we are all about like, did you get an A+? Did you get 100? And that has nothing to do with wisdom, being a wise person. Wisdom comes with experience and age. You could be wise 14-year-old for a 14-year-old, but you could be like intelligent as a 14-year-old as maybe a 28-year-old, and that's how we're gonna that's how we're gonna make our checks and balances work out. And that's something that I've been sitting with quite a bit, because where I don't have grandparents, I feel like I'm missing out on that experience quite a bit. And my partner doesn't have grandparents, so I'm going to be I'm going through the volunteer process for the Halifax hospice that's opening up in a few months. And one of the things that I told them that I was really excited about was having these connections with people at their end of their life, and holding space for them, but was hoping that they would share stories and share some knowledge, some wisdom with me, in a non I want this from you, but just I want to have this experience with you, because I've never had that before, and I think it's something that might be missing from my life a little bit.
Well, I think it's almost I buy it, and I buy that it's missing from the culture, because one thing that's disappearing is or most has it disappeared? Have all the veterans from World War II, are there any still? I think there must be probably a couple, but I don't know.
Yeah, there would be from World War II, so that would be, you'd be 18, so you'd probably be born in, actually they'd be right around 100 years old, being the latest. So 1914 to 19, so 19. They'd probably be right around 100 years old if they're 1945. So there's not very many.
So I wonder how much that is missing from our consciousness. I'm not trying to make a case for war or to glorify war, but that was the last time in history that there was something so cut and dry as the world wars, where it's okay, we have to do something about this, and it comes down to the whole, it would be great if we could all just love each other and be kind, but when someone else is not playing by that rule, my little flower isn't gonna stop them. And so we had to mobilize, and we had to have faith in our nation and what we stood for, and freedom, the pursuit of the individual to find what that's the whole idea of Western culture initially. And so we went over there, and those people went through the craziest shit.
I know.
Those stories are disappearing, and the human aspect of someone who lived it telling it. I mean, obviously there's been wars, and there are war vets today, and there are people who have seen horrible things, and it's not a side of life that people want to acknowledge much. I find, especially in things like the community of people who are into yoga and meditating and stuff, but the world that all of history took place in is still this world.
Oh my goodness, I know. It's we haven't gone anywhere. It's always happened here. I have never been educated on any sorts of war, 1 to Civil War. I did French immersion, so my history was Canadian, l'histoire canadienne sort of thing, right? However, I've always kind of been drawn to it, and my stepfather was really into Civil War stuff, and so by virtue of that, I got into reading and watching documentaries about it, and now my Angus is very into learning about war, and just I think the only time I ever see him cry is on every Remembrance Day. We get together. There's a few of us that get together. We have to drink scotch, and we just watch all war documentaries. And I think the only time that I've ever seen him really tear up was that, because of this respect that he has for these people who just threw themselves out there. Even yesterday we were saying I wonder what the world would have been like if Hitler didn't kill 6 million Jewish people, right? And of course all the what ifs around that, but it still comes back to we're still here. All of that stuff happened. We can never, ever, ever change it because it's already happened. So let's give gratitude for that, but be here, and be here, and be here, and just, it's you can't forget that, but you can't change it, but you can learn from that
exactly.
too.
Well, it's a reason I find myself drawn to Jungian's psychology a lot because
Yeah.
of his all of his ideas about the shadow, what he named the shadow being like the part of humanity that is
The darkness.
all that,
Yeah.
you know, and all that light.